and welcome everyone to a very special educational session today that we are hosting called Building a Profitable Trading Strategy with the Help of AI, or specifically, we're going to be talking about ChatGPT. And you might be asking, how is ChatGPT going to make me a profitable trader? Well, I've been using it quite a bit over the past few months, playing around with all the different use cases of ChatGPT for both personal and professional use cases. And what I want to show you is some of the things that I've been able to do that I was not able to do by myself before ChatGPT came around that accelerates the work that I do as a strategist. And I'm going to show you how I've done something so that you can hopefully take what you've learned here today and build it into something on your own and try to build what I would call a profitable trading strategy, or show you what path you need to be on to build a profitable trading strategy using AI. Now, before we get started, I want to remind everyone here at Options Play, our education sessions are always focused on empowering you to trade sustainably and confidently. And that very much aligns to what we're going to talk about today, which is how can ChatGPT, how can AI help you be more sustainable and be more confident in your trading? These are some of the things we're going to discuss during today's session. But before we start, what we are going to discuss here today is purely for education and demonstration purposes. It is not a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell any of the specific securities that I'll be using as example purposes during today's session. So we're going to start off by talking about what does it mean to actually be consistent and confident in your trading? That's really important for us to define before we think about how AI or any of these tools can potentially get us there. Then I want to talk a little bit about our trading plan versus reality, meaning what usually goes wrong that causes most traders to not be successful and not be profitable in their trading. And then we're going to talk about how technical analysis in theory can solve some of these problems by providing objective signals, and specifically how AI can help us build technical indicators, custom technical indicators and signals using the tools that I'll be showing you here today. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you some of our quant research, meaning the work that I've been using AI with over the past couple of months and the outcome of all of that, and show you how to get access to some of that with a Q&A here, a session here at the very end. Now, before we jump into it, I do want to ask the audience here, how many of you have used AI tools like ChatGPT or Google Bard? Type yes into the chat window if you have, or type no if you have not used these tools yet. Okay. I'm seeing quite a few yeses, almost an equal number of no's, but it seems like the yeses at the moment is pretty much 50-50. And that's predominantly kind of what I've seen as I've been doing a few of these sessions over the past few weeks, asking kind of folks whether or not they've used it. We have really found that these tools have been incredibly useful for a lot of different use cases. And I'm not going to get into all of them. I'm going to talk about one very specific use case that I think can help you become a more confident and sustainable trader. So the primary question that I want you to be able to walk away from today's session is a clear understanding as to how can AI help me become a more confident trader with my trading strategy. So let's kind of take a step back before we get into AI, before we talk about indicators and technical analysis. I want to first establish some ground rules. My goal here is to help you understand what it takes to become a confident and consistent trader. What I mean by that, in very short words, is how can you become profitable in your trading? I would say in my 17 years of working as a market strategist with thousands of retail and institutional traders, the vast majority of traders never get to a point where they're confident in their ability to become profitable. So what does confident mean? Confidence means that you have an understanding of your strategy. This really only happens if you either have a vast amount of experience of trading and you can dissect other people's strategy to really understand what they're doing, or you can build it from the ground up yourself. And that's really kind of what we're going to try to do this today. Because if you just follow someone else's trading blindly, meaning you don't know why they're trading something, they're just telling you buy here, sell there, you're not going to know why they do it. And this has a problem when when you have a string of losers, you lose confidence. And if anyone can relate to that, please type 1 into the chat window. If you're following other traders, you don't really know what they're doing or why they're trading something. They're telling you buy here, sell there. The second you run into a string of losers, what do? You lose confidence in that strategy and you try to find someone else that you think won't have the string of losers, but you end up doing that same thing over and over again. So confidence is number 1. That's what I'm hoping to help you establish. Number 2 is consistency, your ability to stick to your trading plan. So once you've built a trading plan, how do you stick to it? Unfortunately, we're human. We have biases that cause us to not necessarily listen to our strategy every single time. We are put under stress when we have a losing position that causes us to deviate from our trading plans. So how can we gain more consistency in our trading? So this is really when you look at successful traders, and in my 17 years of doing this, the vast majority of traders cannot do this exactly that, because the successful traders, they don't have some secret indicator that you don't have access to. They don't have faster quotes than you do. They don't have anything that you don't already have access to. What they are able to do better than traders who are not successful or not profitable is that they're able to follow their trading plan and they're able to regulate their emotions, especially when they're in a trade with a loss. What traders don't spend enough time working on is managing their emotions and understanding their behaviors that cause them to deviate from their trading plan. We spend all of our time learning technical analysis, option strategies. We spend almost 100% of our time focused on that. Now, you should probably spend at least 20 to 30% of your education on yourself. And this is really what we're here to talk about here today, because it's easy to create a trading plan. I'm going to show you how to do it in a matter of minutes during today's session. But what's damn hard to do is sticking to it. And the problem is that we're human, we're not robots, and we make irrational decisions when we're placed under stress. So how can AI solve this? This is really where technical analysis and AI can help put you on the right path. So technical analysis, all these indicators that you can draw on your charts, they're meant to provide you with what is an objective view on price. The problem is that we're human. We have biases, and we tend to not use these indicators objectively. What we do is we use them to try to confirm our own biases. The problem with technical analysis, there are thousands of indicators, and within those indicators, there are infinite number of parameters, right? We all know about moving averages. But you can use a 10-period moving average, 20-period, 50-period, 200-period. You can use a weekly moving average. You could use a simple exponential. There's no limit as to how many moving averages you can use. And depending on what your own views are, you tend to just find moving averages that confirm your views. You're not using them objectively. How do we solve this using AI? This is really where today I'm going to walk you through a strategy creation. I'll walk through a simple strategy to help you kind of understand how to build a strategy from the ground up. I'm going to show you how you can extract the signals. And this is the important part, because most of the time we go into this phase of using technical analysis to confirm our own biases, because we have access to infinite number of signals, infinite number of indicators. But what you really want from those indicators is not to look at those indicators and interpret them. You just want the indicators to tell you when they've generated a signal. So what we're going to show you is how AI can help you do all of these things. Now, here's the strategy I'm going to help you build today. It's a very simple strategy, and it's in 3 steps. The first step is we're going to do some trend analysis. We're going to interpret indicators into an objective trend. Think about a moving average. You can think about moving averages in multiple ways, but a simple way of thinking about it is when it's above its moving average, it's trending higher. When it's below its moving average, it's trending lower. This is a very oversimplified view of moving averages. There are obviously more complex, perhaps even better ways to use it. But for today's purposes, I just want to show you a simple strategy that you can start learning, or rather start mimicking, and then working on improving it on your own. The second thing we're going to do after a trend analysis is trading signals. Just because you've identified a stock as trending higher doesn't mean that you should buy it at any time within the trend. You generally want to wait for some type of signal within that trend. So if you have a bullish trend, maybe you want to wait for a bit of a dip. before you buy into that trend. So how can we find signals within a trend? And then thirdly, what we're going to do is look at filters. Just because a stock generates multiple signals throughout a bullish trend does not mean that all of them are created equal. Some of them are better than others. So what we want to do is we want to do some kind of filtering so that we're not looking at all the different signals. We're only looking at the ones that are arguably the best. So this is what I'm going to show you. And what you really want to get to are these filtered signals that give you the best possibility of success. I'm going to show you how ChatGPT and AI tools can help you do this. So before we jump right into it, I do want to lay some groundwork. Number one, you're going to need access to ChatGPT. There's a free version that you can access at chat.openai.com, which I will post the link into the chat window for everyone to see. ChatGPT is going to help us do two things. One, it's going to help us learn indicators and strategies using natural language. Number two, it's going to help us write code and test ideas to optimize. Now, arguably, you could use Google to do stuff like this, learn indicators and strategies. You can Google how to use a moving average, how to use specific indicators. You can ask Google what are some popular indicators. You can do the research yourself. But what I have found ChatGPT to be incredibly useful for is simply asking it simple questions. And you can say, write me an outline to learn the basics of technical analysis. And what it'll do is it'll give you an outline. So if you have no idea what technical analysis is, it'll give you an outline for an introduction. And what you can do is you can, based on that outline, say, okay, I know the introduction part. I don't need to go through that, but I do need a revisit on the use of charts or the use of trend analysis. So what you do is you basically ask ChatGPT to say, I'll just stop it, but you get the point here. You can say, great, provide me with the notes and course outline for the trend analysis section. And what I'll do is I'll give you an overview of trend analysis. And here's how you can start to learn. And you're basically telling it to teach you technical analysis. And you can basically get really deep into a specific topic, or you can keep it really broad. So if you're brand new to technical analysis, my suggestion is keep it really broad. If you already have a deep understanding of technical analysis, you might want to have it give you some very specific stuff. So maybe you want to look at, a sideways trend. You want to know how to identify sideways trends. So tell me more about number 3, sideways trend. And it'll then give you a whole, deep dive into sideways trends, and you can ask it questions. So if something doesn't make sense to you, you can say, well, this portion, I don't really understand. Can you explain it to me in different ways? You can ask it to explain it to you in more simpler language or more complex language. It really is like talking to someone who has an expert in just about anything. And again, this is for personal or professional reasons, that you can talk to it and get information out of it and ask follow-up questions in a natural way. Normally, this would take you hours and hours of time if you were to, let's say, use Google and have to read different articles. This basically kind of does that for you and returns just the information that you're looking for. So incredibly powerful to help you learn these indicators and strategies. But the important part that I'm going to show you here today is how to write code and test ideas and optimize them in a very quick amount of time. And that's really one of the most amazing things about these AI tools that Google cannot do for you. That if you just went on Google and tried to search for things, you can't do that. So what I'm going to show you here is ChatGPT and TradingView. TradingView is a web-based charting package. It is available free of charge at tradingview.com, which I will post that link into the chat window here as well. And the thing about TradingView is that it uses an open source language called PineScript, which means that you can write all of your own custom indicators, and TradingView will basically build the indicator on the chart for you based on fully custom code that you've written. The problem is that I don't write code. Maybe some of you do, but I would imagine most of you are not familiar with how to write code specifically in PineScript. So what I'm going to show you today is how you can use ChatGPT to help you build technical indicators. And remember, the important part is the signal extraction. You don't need someone to draw. You don't need to draw moving averages and doing the interpretation for you. What you want is these indicators to do the interpretation for you. And by doing a machine doing it for you, there's no subjectivity in it. It's very objective. It's either above the moving average or below the moving average. There's no ifs or buts. There's no maybe if I tried a different moving average, I get a different view, or maybe the moving average is sloping in a different direction. As humans, we always find reasons to confirm our own biases. This takes that completely away from us and puts it into the hands of just computer code. And it gives us exactly what we want, which is an objective view on what's going on with the broader markets. Does that make sense, everyone? Please type 2 into the chat window if that makes sense to you. And if it doesn't make sense to you, hopefully when I show you some examples, it'll become a lot more clear to you. So here's how you use ChatGPT. You talk to it like you talk to someone who's a computer programmer. You basically pretend like you have a quantitative team that is just waiting for you to tell them what to do. That's kind of what ChatGPT does. And this is the prompt that I put into ChatGPT earlier today. I told it, create me a pine script indicator. And the parts in red are the important parts, right? That's the part that you have to get right. Everything in white is completely up to you. And I'm going to give you a simple one, right? Create a pine script indicator. That tells ChatGPT that I want to create a TradingView indicator. And what I want this indicator to do is help me determine the trend of a stock using the simple moving average. So SMA is a simple moving average where it draws a histogram below the chart. So I just want to see kind of a histogram below the chart. And when the stock is above the 30-period moving average, assign the histogram a value of 1 and a color green. And if it's below the 30-period moving average, give the histogram a -1 and color it red. And a really important part that I have found as I played around with this is I specifically instruct this indicator to not draw the moving average for me. The whole reason that I'm doing this is so that I don't have to draw moving averages and do the interpretation manually. Because when I do the interpretation manually, I add my own biases to that view. What I don't want to happen is that I just want it to tell me red, green, either it's above or below the moving average. Does that make sense, everyone? Please type 3 into the chat window if that makes sense to you. Again, this is a really simple strategy. You may have a much more better way of identifying trend. And what you can do is you can fill that in here. Where I have it in white, that's my simple 30-day moving average above or below. You might have something far more better than that. You add whatever you want, but what you get is a histogram that tells you red or green. So this is the output that ChatGPT gives me. So I'll actually even just copy and paste this into ChatGPT for you real quick, and I'll show you. I'll actually create a new chat. Let's create a new chat, and I'm going to say, I am a trader, and I am trying to create a custom technical indicator in TradingView. So keep in mind that one of the great things about ChatGPT is that within a chat, like I'm doing right now, I just started a new chat. It remembers everything that's happening in the previous, as you've spoken to it. So it remembers an entire conversation. So you can have entire streams of information where it remembers what you've asked it before. So it knows kind of what you know, what you don't know, and you prompt it to do this. And this is a whole art in understanding as to how to prompt it, right? So it came back and says, creating a custom indicator involves using their scripting language. Here's a good example of a simple moving average crossover. I didn't even ask it to create a moving average crossover for me. It already did that for me. So great. This is a great starting point. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have it stop real quick. I'm going to do exactly what I said. Create me a Pine script indicator that does exactly what I told it to do. And what it'll do is say, great, I'm going to go do that for you. And I'll show you just how quickly it's able to write me a simple piece of code. As you can see, it's only about, about a dozen or so lines of code. And it says, this piece of code will be able to do exactly what you asked me to do. And what you do is you copy this piece of code, you go into TradingView, and at the very bottom of TradingView, you'll see this thing, it'll call Pine Editor here at the very lower left-hand corner. This is what you need to do. You need to open up Pine Editor, and you go to the Open button and click on Indicator. And what that allows you to do is basically copy and paste that indicator. So I'll name it SMA trend histogram, even though I already have another one, so I'll just name it 1, 2, 3, so it doesn't, whoops, hold on. Let's copy this piece of code and I'll save and add this to my chart. So now what I have, as you can see at the bottom of my chart, is this red and green histogram. And what it's doing, and I have the OMX S30 here, and what it's doing is that every single time this OMX S30 is above the 30-day moving average, so let's bring up a moving average real quick, moving average, and I will change that to a 30-period moving average, just to show you. So every time the stock is above the moving average, notice how the trend indicator turns green. Every time it's below it, it turns red. So what this prevents me from doing is having to draw this moving average, doing the interpretation, reading the chart. I don't have to do any of that. I can basically delete it, this indicator, and I know here red or green without having to look at the chart, whether it's trending above its 30-day moving average or below its moving average. Does that make sense, everyone? Please type 4 into the chat window if that makes sense to you. Like I said, this is a really simple strategy, right? Hopefully, as you learn a little bit more about technical analysis, and maybe many of you already have a strong knowledge of technical analysis, you get to start to throw some of your own ideas as far as how you want to identify trend. And you basically tell ChatGPT and it's able to help you create these indicators. And the idea, again, is to remove the subjectivity from the analysis and give you just the objective signals that you want, right? First thing, it's always good to know just the overall trend before you trade anything. I'm going to delete this because I've already created this before, right? It's the same one. I already created it before, so I'm going to show it to you on my chart. So this gives me a very quick review. So if I'm looking at H&M, let's look at H&M real quick. H&M. I can see that H&M recently just started a bullish trend, meaning it just broke above its 30-day moving average today, right? So early in a potential trend. So, this gives me, without having to pull up a moving average, a good understanding as to whether it's trending higher or lower and how long it's been in that trend for. Those are two very important things that this indicator allows me to do. And I can do it for any symbol. And this is really one of the benefits of the OMX of TradingView, because TradingView allows me to view all different asset classes, whether you're trading Nordic equities, Danish equities, Swedish equities, US equities, bonds, gold, whatever it is that you're trading, TradingView has almost every single asset class under the sun, okay? So this indicator that I just created, this moving average histogram, is a simple way for me to identify the trend without having to draw any indicators on my chart. That's number one. I'll show you just another one, this is a quick one, but maybe you prefer using MACD instead of moving averages, right? Maybe you like to look at the MACD and whether it's trending higher or lower. So here, create me a Pine script indicator to help me determine the trend of a stock using MACD. Before we're using moving averages, now we're using MACD. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw a histogram. When the MACD histogram is increasing in value, give me a 1. When it's decreasing in value, give me a -1. And same thing, green and red. And what I don't want it to do is to draw the MACD. I don't want to have the indicator and have to do the interpretation myself. I want the indicator to do the interpretation for me so that there's no subjectivity in my analysis of it. It's just based on if the MACD histogram is increasing in value or decreasing in value. And this is the piece of code that it spit out for me from ChatGPT. And here is that indicator here at the bottom, right? So as you can see, one is a moving average trend indicator and one is a MACD histogram. And as you can see, one is very different from the other, right? The moving average one kept me bullish during this whole phase, had a small bearish phase, a whole bullish phase over here, small bearish phase, whoops, and kept me relatively on the right side of this overall trend, versus MACD was far more volatile, went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? So you can kind of make a decision as to, should I use MACD for my trading or should I use moving averages for my trading? Now, this is not always, in my opinion, fair, because there are certainly going to be some instances where I think MACD may perform a little better. Specifically, if you look at kind of more range-bound times, let's look at kind of this period of time, right? As you can see, this period of time was very volatile, very choppy. MACD, in my opinion, was much better at capturing kind of trends much earlier, right? So here's when MACD turned positive. Here is when it turned negative. it was able to capture a lot of these small movements in kind of a sideways market. So what you start to learn when you see these indicators is that depending on the indicator, you're going to learn that they work better in certain market conditions. So look at how the moving average kept you bearish all the way through here versus MACD would have told you to kind of stay away from continuing that bearish trend. So there are just things that you'll start to learn about these moving averages when you, these indicators, when you just extract the signals and you don't have to look at the indicators themselves. It's a really important learning process by doing some of this groundwork, because that's going to help you understand your strategy and have a lot more confidence in what you're doing. Okay, so as I said, first thing what we're going to do is determine a trend indicator. So I showed you two simple ones, a MACD one and a moving average one. You can play around with that, try different indicators, try different parameters until you get to one that you feel comfortable with, that you like, that suits you. Second thing I want to show you is some trading signals. So traditionally, we use momentum indicators like RSI, stochastics, CCI, Williams percent R. There are hundreds and hundreds of these indicators with hundreds of different possible parameters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a simple one, a commodity channel index. This is one that I use a lot. It's just my personal preference. I don't think one is better than the other. But what I'm going to ask it to do is, instead of me drawing the indicator and then having to interpret the squiggly lines, it does the work for me. I basically tell it to create me a Pine script indicator, same thing, and draw me a green buy signal when the 14-period commodity channel index crosses above -100, which is the oversold level for that specific indicator. And if you don't know what the overbought, oversold levels for a specific indicator that you like to use, ask ChatGPT. It'll give you the answer. So it's going to give me a buy signal when it crosses above the buy line. It's going to give me a red sell signal when it crosses below the sell line. And again, I'm asking it to don't plot the indicator for me. But I am going to do it for you just so you can see it. So here's the CCI, Commodity Channel Index. This is a 20-period commodity channel index. So let me change that to a 14-period just so you can see. And you can see basically what I'm saying is that whenever it crosses above that buy line, give me a buy signal. Whenever it crosses below that sell line, get me a sell signal, so that I don't have to look at this line and do the interpretations myself. It just plots them on the chart for me. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this indicator because I think whenever we look at indicators, sometimes it gets confusing. And I'm actually going to hide some of these other things as well, just so that we kind of focus on what we're looking at. So every single time that indicator crosses above that buy line, I get a green line. Every time it crosses above the sell line, I get a red signal. As you can see, there are a lot of signals on this page. Some good, like this one. This looked pretty good. That looked pretty good. That looked pretty good. But there's tons of bad ones, right? Look at this. Look at this, all of these bad sell signals, right? Terrible sell signals. This is a good one, and that's a good one. So this is really kind of the filtering part, right? It's one thing to do these signals themselves. It's another thing to start saying, okay, I can't trade all of these. How do I start filtering some of these things out? And that's really kind of where I start looking at filtering, right? So I'm basically now going to combine the trend indicator that I created and the CCI indicator that I created. And what this allows me to do is basically say, combine the SMA histogram. And remember, because ChatGPT remembers what it just built for me earlier, I don't have to tell it how to build a strategy completely from scratch every single time I'm asking it to build me an indicator. I can reference something that happened in the past. I can reference the SMA histogram that it built for me in a previous chat and say, and the CCI signal indicator, so it knows the two things I'm referring to. And I'm telling it only generate buy signals when the histogram is positive, and only sell signals when the histogram is negative. And again, don't plot anything for me, just give me the filtered signals. And what I get from all of that is this. This is the filtered signals. And as you can see, out of all of those signals, it filtered out all of those really bad ones. It does filter out some of the good ones as well, but the idea is that I want much fewer signals that are much better quality for my ideas. Now, this is really where it gets really interesting, because now you've got a indicator that gives you the overall trend. And let's just use let's use our moving average one. And let's now look at our indicator. So basically, it's only going to give me a sell signal if the trend is negative. It's only going to give me a bear signal if the trend is negative. So this allows me to get much better, higher quality signals. So I'm basically trading with the trend, and I'm only getting the signals within a trend. So this is just kind of the layers that it takes to get to what is a profitable strategy, or rather, what does it take to get to a strategy that you're confident in? Does that make sense? Because you've built the strategy layer by layer. You understand it, which means that you'll have a lot more confidence in the signals that are generated versus the signals that someone else told you to trade. Does that make sense? Please type 5 into the chat window if that makes sense to you. Perfect. Now, what I want to do is last step, right? So now that you've done all this work, you've kind of you've built the trend indicator, you've built signals, you filtered out some of those signals, and you got to something that you think is pretty good. How do you know how good that is? That's really kind of the neat part about TradingView, because what I can do is I can now take what I built, I can take the filtered buy and sell signals that I just built and turn it into what's called a Pine script strategy. What a strategy is different than an indicator in TradingView is that the strategy, you can have TradingView backtest your strategy and tell you how well it performs. So not only can you use this tool to help you do the work, you can actually test your work and immediately see whether it's good or not. You can then go back, make some improvements, make some optimizations, and test it again and see, does it improve your trading results or worsen it? And this is how you get better at trading. And ultimately, the best traders spend their lives tinkering around, trying different things until they get to a point where they say, okay, this is really good. Let me start trading it. And when you understand what you do and you only have the signals to look at, that is when you have the best possible chance at sticking to your trading plan. Meaning when you get a signal, you trade it. When you don't get a signal, you don't trade. Sticking to your plan is arguably a really simple idea, right? But it's the emotional element that we as human beings have trouble dealing with. So how do we overcome those emotional, inability to stick to our trading plan? Is we have to build our strategy. We have to have confidence in our strategy, and we need to know how well it performs so that that's how we have confidence in that strategy. So when I ask it to now take what we've built, the filtered signals, and turn it into a Pine script strategy, it gives me this piece of code here on the left-hand side. Now, for strategies, what you do have to do is you have to go back to your Pine editor and you have to open a strategy. Before we opened up an indicator, now we're opening up a strategy. And when you open up a strategy, you have to take what you've here, I copied this piece of code that ChatGPT gave me. I put it into there and I can save this. Let's call it the test strategy. Okay, I'll save this and I will save it and add to my chart. I've got an error here, but I'll figure out what the error is here in 1 second. But I've already built this into our chart just so I can show you. And this is the strategy itself, the CCI EMA strategy. And let's save this and add this to chart. And what this gives you, as you can see here in TradingView, you have Pine Editor here at the bottom, and you also have what's called a strategy tester. This is the backtesting tool. And what you can do is you can bring up the backtesting tool. It will show you, based on if you were to buy and sell using these filtered signals, what percentage of your trades are profitable, what's your profit factor, and you can even look at, very detailed things about your trades. What's your average trade? What's your average winning trade? What's your average losing trade? Really important information, and you can even audit it, and you can look at every single trade, when it entered, when it exited. This is using the weekly chart. You can test it on the daily chart, and you can see how each of these perform. So on the daily chart, as you can see, it doesn't perform as well. 31% profitable, and the profit factor is below 1. But on the weekly chart, you get a much better performance, right? And you can try this on all different, you can try this on all different stocks. You can try it on the index. So whatever you build here at OMX S30 on the weekly chart, 54% of trades are profitable, nice profit factor of 2.98. And you can really look at, the list of trades, when it bought, when it sold, what the results were, when it had losses, when it had gains. There's a lot of information here. I don't have enough time to go through everything. I'm trying to show you enough so that you can go back and watch the recording later and try these different things out on your own. I tried to give you a simple example that everyone can follow, just using a simple trend indicator, using a simple strategy, with the buy and sell, and then filtering it out based on that trend indicator. You can get a lot more complicated on your own, but the steps are the same. Do it layer by layer. And then you can use the Pine editor to create the indicators and the strategy tester to test the strategies. And I've given you all the prompts, specifically the ones in red are the important ones that you need to copy. Everything else in white, you have freedom to do whatever you'd like. But the stuff that's in red, that's what you generally want to copy from what I've done, because I've already done all of the work to help you understand how you can get what you need out of ChatGPT if you follow the prompts that are in red. So what I've showed you is this really simple strategy that we just built today, right? This is not meant to be a good performing strategy. This is just meant to be a really, really simple strategy. But, me and my team have been spending the last couple of months doing exactly this and testing out different ideas. And, I used to have a team of people that I would take an idea, I'd have to get on a call, explain the idea to them. They would then write the code. They would have to publish that code into Options Play for me to see the results. I'd have to have them write a backtesting tool to test the tools, test the signals, see how well they do. I'd analyze the results, and then we go back and forth. And this was a process that usually take weeks and weeks and weeks to do a single strategy. What I've been able to do now with the use of ChatGPT is within a couple of days, I've been able to test an idea from start to finish within a couple of days. And I want to show you some of the results of what we have built here. I'm going to remove some of these things just so we can focus on what we have built. What we have been building is this specific indicator. And I just want to show you some of the results here. So this is OMX S30 on a daily chart. As you can see, you have a 50% profit, 1% profit, not that amazing. OMX on the weekly chart, you have a 66% profitable, 5.1% profit factor. But as you can see, if we start to look at some other symbols, right, you start to get, is this the right one that I'm looking at? I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right one. Don't want to use the wrong one. Pretty sure I'm using the right one. Let's see. Something tells me I'm not looking at the right one. So these numbers don't make sense. One second. I'm pretty sure. Let me actually, you know what? I know how I can tell. Okay, here I'm using the right one. So here's OMX S30. Here's OMC25. Now these are not. This isn't over a large number of trades, only 5 trades, but 80% profitable. OMX H25, Helsinki 25, 66% profitable, 2.3% profit factor. We can look at a bunch of different stocks like H&M on a daily chart. As you can see, 54% profitable. This isn't a particularly good one per se, but you can test it on whatever strategy, whatever stocks that you want to test. Evolution Gaming, let's look at that. 87% profitable, 107 profit factor. So we've been doing a lot of work on trying to build an indicator that gives us gives us really strong, or as you can see, these were kind of buy signals on Evolution Gaming, and we're really trying to find the highest quality possible entries. And you can test one of the drawbacks of TradingView, in my opinion, is that you got to back test each individual strategy, each individual symbol on each individual timeline separately, which means that you won't be able to do it across hundreds of symbols at once. You know, when we build our own backtesting tools at OptionsPlay, we can backtest all the symbols across all the timeframes all at once. The limiting factor of TradingView is that you can only do one symbol with one time frame at a time. It's very fast, as you can see. You know, when I type in, for example, what's a stock that we can look at? I don't know, Swedish Match maybe. Or what's a good name for us to look at? I don't know, maybe some of the banking stocks. You guys can throw out some stocks if you want me to take a look at how they perform. Oops, don't want Siri. Here's SEB, 68% profitable. Wasn't the best trading strategy. ABB, 62% profitable, 1.5% profit factor. Husqvarna, 72% profitable, 1.1% profit factor. What are some other stocks that you guys like to trade? Saab, 68% profitable, 3.2% profit factor. SBB, 71% profitable. Profit factor isn't that great, but as you can see, it generates really high quality, high probability signals. It doesn't always have the best signals. I'm sorry, it's obviously not profitable 100% of the time, but from a probability perspective, it's gotten really good results on most symbols. So this is really something that we've been trying to optimize, and we're in the process of actually building it into OptionsPlay. So not only will you be able to get the trend indicator that will show you how something is, whether it's trending higher or lower, but you'll also get the specific buy and sell signals from this specific indicator. So we are actually opening up the wait list if you want to access this specific indicator once we have it available. It is going to be available to everyone. If you currently already have an OptionsPlay Swedish account or OptionsPlay Nordic account, you're already on the wait list. But if you are not, if you don't have an OptionsPlay account yet, you can sign up for the wait list to get access to this AI-built trend and signal indicator that we've been working on for the last couple of months by joining this link here on your screen. I posted it into the chat window, and it's just simple name and email will get you on the list. And it's the trade.optionsplay.com/Nordic AI. This will allow you to quickly get on the wait list for when we publish this to the OptionsPlay tool. Like I said, what it's going to be able to do, it's going to give you the trend indicator so you can see how the, whether the stock that you're looking at is trending higher or sideways or lower. It even tells you when the trend is likely going to end. As you can see, these purple bars tell you, hey, we're in a bullish trend, but things are starting to get a little overbought. This is not a good time to continue entering that bullish trend. And it will give you specific trend following signals as well as counter trend signals to tell you when a trend is over and it's time to trade in the opposite direction. So all of that included is in this one single indicator, as well as helping you scan for when they generate buy and sell signals. So like I said, this is going to be already in the options play tool once we finish building it. But if you don't have access to the options play tool yet, you can get on the wait list. Once we launch it, we will notify you by going to this link on your screen at trade.optionsplay.com/Nordic AI. I post that link into the chat window here as well for anyone who's viewing this today that does not already have a Nordic options play account. So with that, what I'll do is I'll open this up for Q&A. Like I said, I went over a lot of things. AI has been an incredibly powerful tool in my day-to-day. I would say that I've kind of completely changed how I utilize the internet, how I find information on the internet, away from searching on Google and having to do a lot of the research myself into having ChatGPT organize a lot of information on my behalf. It certainly has been an incredibly powerful tool in helping me write code that I wasn't able to do before without the help of someone else. And I hopefully this interest and enlightens some of you, to inspire some of you to consider looking at some of these tools and how it can help you become a more profitable trader. So with that, what I'll do is I'll open this up for Q&A. There's a chat window and a Q&A window at the bottom of your screen. If you click on the Q&A window, you can type in any questions, and I'll answer a few questions before I jump off for today's session. Any questions? I know I went over a lot of things and really powerful stuff in terms of what you can do with this. And like I said, writing code is just a really, really small sliver of what you could do with this. It's completely free, Saul. As part of the partnership we have with NASDAQ, Options Play Nordic is free to Nordic investors. So one, if you already have an account, it's free. If you get on the wait list, it's also going to be free. We're just going to let you know once the indicator is available within your Options Play platform so that you can use it to help you understand the trend of any stock that you're analyzing in Options Play, and it'll also help you generate buy and sell signals based on those indicators that I showed you. How rapidly do you think this will evolve and change the trading community? I think that the evolution of this is, first of all, not just across the trading community, it's across almost every single aspect of your life, especially on the professional side of things, but also on the personal side of things. And I really encourage everyone to explore, because, I think that the best analogy for what AI provides, is the internet. Think about 30 years ago when we first understood the concept of the internet, and you got on, and there wasn't a whole lot of things to do on the internet. And think about what you do today on the internet. Literally nothing that you do doesn't involve being on the internet right now. So I think, when you look at where we are today, in terms of AI, it feels very much similar to where we were 30 years ago with the internet. And the reality is that 30 years ago, we had no idea that the internet was going to revolutionize the way that we interact and basically go about doing everything in the world. And AI will be exactly the same way, and it will happen at a much, much faster pace than how long it took for the internet to catch on, right? Arguably, you would say that it took nearly a decade before people were kind of, most people were on the internet, and then another probably 5 years where most people had access to broadband. I think that that's probably an accelerate from 10 to 15 years down to maybe 1 to 3 years. So things change extremely rapidly in this particular field. And I think that it's important that you at least have some exploration in it, because I unfortunately believe that if you don't, you sort of get left behind. And this is why I took the time to put out this session, because it's completely revolutionized the way that I think about interacting with the internet. And I think it's important that if you want to trade and you want to leverage some of these tools to your benefit, here are some of the important ways that it can do that right now. In 6 to 9 months, I'm sure that will be completely different. But right now, this is what it's able to provide. Are AI codes available on most platforms yet? So, it's available. Here's the thing is that you can ask ChatGPT, what languages are you able to write code in? What languages are you able to write code in? And it'll basically give you a list. Now, it's not able to, you can't say, write me, build me an app to do X, Y, and Z, right? It'll basically build snippets of code. But look, these are the different languages that it's able to write in. And it's able to write in a lot of really kind of niche ones like TradingView, right? That's a very, very trading oriented, yet it's able to do it. So, here's a list of 30 types of programming languages that it's able to write in. And if you do any type of programming, you've heard almost of every single one of these, right? And you can ask it to help you write simple code for any of these languages. It's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So if you're doing some basic HTML, you can ask it to help you, and you can even give it HTML and have it interpreted for you, right? And this is really what's interesting about TradingView is that any indicator that anyone builds is fully custom, right? It's fully public. So for example, let's say you want to know someone's, I don't know, MACD, maybe someone's built some really interesting, like here, I have no idea what this is, right? MACD bull crossover and RSI oversold. I have no idea what it does, but you can go into the code, right? You can actually go into the code. This is the MACD long strategy. Let's look at the code here. Oh, actually, this one you can't do the code for, but most of the indicators that you can look at have codes that you can actually look at. So let me find another one. Let's look at RSI candles. Someone built something called RSI candles. I have no idea what it does. It's called RSI bars, and I can look at the code. This is the code that someone wrote, right? I have no idea what this does, but I can ask ChatGPT. I say, can you tell me what this code does? And I paste the, whoops, yeah. Can you tell me what this code does? And it's able to interpret code for you and tell you what it does. So if you have no idea and you're not a programmer, how do you actually go about doing this? And it'll basically tell you that it implements color-coded bars based on relative strength index, and it sets up a calculation, and it explains code to you. So it goes both ways. Not only can it help you write code, it can help you interpret code. So it's incredibly, incredibly powerful tool from that perspective. Let's see, what other questions? How do you use the trading strategy to trade automatically? That is something I don't have enough time to cover here today, but TradingView actually has that functionality. You can use it to help you trade. You can actually help it build trading strategies. And TradingView has integrations to different brokerage firms that you can use to have it actually auto trade for you based on a strategies that you built in TradingView. I didn't have enough time to cover that because that's a whole nother session, but that's really kind of where we can help you, in perhaps the next phase. So let us know if this is something that's of interest to you, and we will be able to, for example, for the next session, maybe host that if this is of interest. So let everyone give us their feedback as far as what you think about the session and whether or not you think you want us to do more along these lines. With that, that is unfortunately all the time that I have here for today. I will send out both the recording and the slides and get them out to you as quickly as possible. And I will see you guys here on the next session. Thank you so much and have a great trading day.